Welcome to Awkward Chats, where we take you on a hilarious journey behind the scenes of our travel adventures, and it can get a little awkward.
I'm Nacy.
And I'm Gary.
And together, we make up Lost Girl in Tomorrowland, our YouTube channel, where we go on fun adventures all across the U.S. But that wasn't enough. We wanted a place where we could talk about the real behind the scenes that goes into producing our channel.
Awkward Chats is your ticket to the real, unfiltered side of our travel adventures and a place where we can start your awkward conversations.
So buckle up and get ready for an adventure full of laughter, mishaps, and of course, awkward topics.
You can find new episodes every month, everywhere you get your podcast. This is Awkward Chats.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yeah, we're back on the podcast. This is our first
episode
road podcast.
Yeah, this is our first road episode. As you can see, the backdrop has changed.
Yeah.
If you're watching us.
Yeah, it's definitely different. This is
a different setup for sure. But this is, we're just kind of testing it out. We're going to see, I mean, obviously it's possible for us to do this from the road. So we're not going to have stands right now. We're just going to kind of freeball it and hold these mics. And we're going to take you guys along the road with all of our journeys.
Yeah, we are still trying to figure out the setup. But we're hoping this works, and we're excited. So today on our podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit about our moving recap. So if you've been watching us on Lost Girl in Tomorrowland on YouTube, you'll see the massive move stuff's out this month, and you'll see all of that fun stuff. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that, and then we're going to be talking about the DAS system.
Controversy, man.
Yeah, and that'll definitely be on our YouTube preview too. So if you're watching on the YouTube preview, that's where you're going to see that. But let's move into moving. So
how many times have we moved cross country?
Cross country?
A lot. We've done this a lot.
It depends. If you count north to south as cross country as well,
I think it is.
Then that's a ton. Because we moved from basically
Florida to New York. We
moved from Florida to Albany. We moved from Florida to Syracuse.
Yeah.
Then we moved from
with
Albany,
some stops in Georgia in between.
And then we moved from Albany to Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Then we moved Las Vegas to who knows where at this point.
Yeah, we're just kind of winging it.
And then we have a ton of moves in between because we moved in Florida a few times. We moved so much. So much.
We've definitely, I mean, I think there's one thing we've got down to a T, and that's packing. We're pretty good at packing and getting rid of stuff. Like that is like the one thing, as much of a pain as it is when you move, it's also really nice because then you kind of get to go through stuff and you're like, I haven't touched this since the last time we moved.
True.
Do I need it?
Yeah, that's part of it. But we also get rid of a lot of stuff too. So we don't really hold on to things.
Mm-hmm.
High school yearbooks are gone. Yeah. A lot of stuff like that, like collectibles, things like that are all kind of gone too. So it's kind of sad in that aspect as well.
Yeah, we've definitely lightened our load. Our next big step is right now everything's in a storage pod, which we're going to talk about in just a second about how that went. We're gonna possibly move the storage pod out east and find a storage unit close to where we're at right now, so that way it can be a little more accessible because it's currently located somewhere in Las Vegas. And
skipping a little of the story here.
But
we should start at the beginning.
That's our plans.
To that.
Those are our plans.
So we got movers. We got movers, and that's how it all started, right?
Kind of. We had a dream sitting in a hot tub about 3 years ago. And that's where it started. It was just a dream. We were just talking. And we're like, what if? What if we put everything in a storage unit? Could we do it? And it was just a dream at that point. We were like, I don't know. We'll have to see. Like, as my travel stuff, continues, we'll have to see. Can we do it? And so we did littler trips last year where we were gone for, anywhere from 4 weeks to 6 weeks at a time. And we realized that we could do it. And so we were looking for movers, and we saw a flyer that said college hunks. And we hadn't used college hunks since, I almost said Tallahassee, but Gainesville, Florida. And we used them then, and they were amazing then. I preface it with then.
Yeah. So we've used a bunch of movers since then, though. I mean, the best way to do it is honestly, there is no best way.
There's no best way.
You can hire people that are
It's a roll of the dice.
You can hire people that are with you, like United or one of the other big moving companies, and it's just a roll of the dice. You can hire local movers. We've had great people from big companies. We've had great people from little companies. It's kind of crazy, the inconsistencies with the movers. Like, you can have really great movers or you can have really bad movers, and there's no way to tell.
Yeah, you don't know till you're in the thick of it.
Yeah, we had one mover in Albany. It was a big moving company. I forget the name though. We scheduled it weeks out, and then the week of, they didn't even show up.
No phone call, nothing. They just ghosted us.
So we had to call like a local person, and we got lucky, and they were like, "Yeah, we can be over there in like 20 minutes," and they did
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then we had the men on the move, or whatever college hunks that you got this time.
Yeah.
First thing in Las Vegas, they're like a real estate company. Like, they bill us through, we didn't know this at the time. Let me be clear. Like, we didn't do this intentionally. They billed us through a real estate company. So I don't even know.
We didn't even know until after we paid the deposit.
Yeah, which is definitely a legit tip here. Don't pay a deposit. Don't pay them anything up front until they do the work. Don't do it, because you'll just get screwed every time.
Yeah.
Every time we pay a deposit with a mover, we get screwed.
Now, they did show up early in the morning. I don't think they were late.
No, they showed up on time.
Yeah, they showed up on time, which was good. Because pro tip, always schedule first thing in the morning. Always schedule first thing in the morning. And that's what we did. And they showed up. They seemed able-bodied. But I think once they saw the logistics of what they needed to do, they just went like.
I don't think so. I think they saw how easy it was, and they knew they could milk it for extra money, and that's what they did. I'm guessing that there was nothing else in the afternoon for them.
Yeah, that's true. It's the other downside too.
Yeah, the thing is, when you hire hourly movers, which is all the only way you're going to get movers is hourly, right? They're incentivized to go slow because they get more money. So we had all of this stuff stacked. 2 spots. Upstairs had a stack, downstairs had a stack, and that was it. Yeah. You can actually see the videos on Lost Girl in Tomorrowland.
The only furniture we had was our desk and our chairs. Everything else was boxes.
Yeah, and everything was taken apart too. The chairs were completely taken apart already, so it was just
wrapped.
Yeah, the top and the bottom separated, and then the desk. So they went in, they looked at it, they saw, man, we've got a short day here. We better stretch this out, which is always sign number 1 that you're going to have problems.
Yeah, and so they took their time getting the stuff out. We're thinking like, okay, maybe they're packing it real nice in the pod. No, they didn't.
Yeah, which is fine. Like, if you show up and you take a long time, but you do a good job, I'm good with that. That doesn't bother me at all. But the fact that, and another legit tip here is that they had Nacy sign the paperwork without looking inside the pod.
Yeah.
Which we knew was a mistake, but we're like, we'll trust them. And every time we do that,
it burns.
We get screwed.
Burns a lot. Yeah, so they left. We took a more thorough look at the pod, and we realized the shit was not secured at all. So we did our best to kind of secure what we could. I'm going to be honest with you guys. We're not super hopeful when it gets here. We'll see how it arrives, because they pick those things up and they like jimmy them. Like they free ball and swing while they're trying to get them where they need to get them. And even our last pod that we had, it got kind of jammed and stuck. They shook it. That was how they opened it. They gave it a good shaking. So we'll see. We'll see what everything looks like once it does finally make it to a destination. We haven't quite decided when or where that's going to be, but everything was kind of like they stacked a bunch of stuff like up in the top, but it's like not secured in the top. And then they tried to use up the bottom space of the pod, which really isn't how you pack a pod. You got to like pack as tightly as you can, and then you start moving forward. And then you have to secure those upper levels with straps. And like I said, we did the best we could. We thought about going back the next day and repacking it, but we were like, you know what? We're just going to wing it.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing it. Like, they have just boxes on the top without any like tie or anything, just free floating there. They have the bottom stuff was just totally loose. We gave them straps, and they had plastic, which they were supposed to bring themselves, and they did not bring any plastic either, which again, legit tip. If they come without the stuff they promised to, your best bet is just to turn them away from the door and be like, no, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
which is why we got screwed with the down payment. Because had we not had the down payment, we would have just been like, get out of here. This is not going to work for us because you're not
Yeah.
going to do the job right. They didn't use our straps. They didn't do anything. So it's all sort of loosey goosey packed in
Yeah.
there. I'm just betting a ton of stuff's destroyed, and maybe stuff was stolen too because they dipped out as we were walking towards the pod. I noticed they moved exponentially faster to their truck and got in there and left. And it's like, did you guys steal shit? Because that's typically what people who steal stuff do.
Oh yeah, they definitely didn't stick around for us to like explore
Yeah.
the pod. They were like
Yep.
deuces.
So it's one of two cons. Either they knew that it was really bad packed, which they clearly did, but is the other one too where they stole stuff? So I'll be interested to see when we actually open the pod up how much will be there, if they took anything.
Yeah, let's hope. At least let's just hope it was the first one, not the latter. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff that we're just. Some of it's sentimental, I think, but majority of it is like, okay, if something happened to it, we could probably replace it.
Maybe we don't want to.
Right. So, moving. It's just not fun. So then we fast forward to what was also occurring, I believe that same day, via text message.
Well, no, let's hit up the pod. So the pod actually was smooth. The delivery of the pod,
Yeah.
getting the pod. Again, still a legit tip is if you want to move, the
Do a
pod is
pod.
the way to go right now. If you use movers, and we talked a little bit about this on our last podcast too, and we were kind of touching on getting ready to move. If they go past state lines, you have to basically sue them in federal court,
Which is not easy.
which the length of time to get in federal court is at least multiple years. Combining trying to find an attorney who will go to federal court because of the differences between the laws between state and federal is nearly impossible.
Gotta hope the company still exists when you do get to court.
Right, because every one of them is some kind of LLC broken down. When we moved from Orlando to Albany, we used a company called Roadrunner. Legit tip, never, ever,
Yeah,
ever
they're
use
a
them.
brokerage, which I have learned in the moving world. Brokering of freight, essentially, and they like bit off pieces of your trip to the lowest denominator.
Well, they didn't claim to be a brokerage because that was a question we asked them, so they lied to us there. But basically, brokerage, what they do is they basically buy a spot in a bigger truck. So like United or whatever the bigger moving company is moving if somebody from Miami to maybe like New York City, they'll buy a piece of that truck, put our Orlando stuff in there, and then then it'll be dumped off somewhere in New York City, and it'll sit in a field until they can find somebody else to come pick it up and take it the rest of the way. So a lot of times your stuff just sits in fields, gets wet, and all this other stuff.
Yeah, there's no care given whatsoever
Yeah,
in those situations.
there's no caregiving because there's no accountability.
Yeah, that was our previous move, which we've developed. We talked about in previous podcasts. So, you guys can always go back and listen to that lovely experience.
But that's what we're saying. That's the thing you want to avoid because there's no repercussions. And then when we found this out, when I got there, it was all damaged. There's nothing we could do.
Yeah,
And no attorneys would do anything. We contacted the district attorneys for Florida,
And
New
New
York. Both of them blew us off and said there's nothing they can do.
Yep.
And then, of course, like she said, it was under different names. So it was Roadrunner. It was also called like something else at the time, like something Route 66 moving or something. And then they had another name. I mean, they have so many names
Yeah.
that it's crazy once we started actually investigating. So you want to be cautious.
And we've
with
also
anybody.
done U-Haul moves, budget moves. We've done where we packed up a truck and we moved. And I'm gonna be honest, that one wasn't half as bad if you only have one car.
It's not bad, but you got to know that they don't maintain the U-Hauls.
Yeah.
So that's
Short
established.
distance. They're okay for short distance. I
Right,
think.
exactly, yeah. And try to avoid any place with hills. So if you have hills or mountains, you might want to avoid them completely because it won't be able to get over 40.
Right. I would still recommend if you decide to do like a budget U-Haul truck thing, still get the movers to move your stuff out, pack your truck, and then you just drive the truck. Make it as little stress on you as possible, because we did do that with our last U-Haul move, which was many years ago. That was our first try with movers moving our stuff out, because we had a second story apartment and it had very narrow walkways, and we were like, yeah, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
So definitely a legit tip. Movers. It saves your back, save your time. The hard part is you don't know until you're in the thick of it if they're going to be worth a damn. But talk to people you know who have used movers. They might have somebody that they used, and they might have really good recommendations. It sucks for us because we don't usually know a lot of people in the cities that we're in, and we don't usually have a lot of people to be like, hey, like, do you have any recommendations? So we kind of just fly off the seat of our pants and look at Google reviews. That's usually the best we can get, and sometimes it works out great, sometimes not so much.
Well, and a couple legit tips too. There is try to get people who will bring like plastic and stuff. If they say they're not going to bring plastic, that means they're not professionals.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one red flag.
Wrapping blankets.
Another red flag is if they can't guarantee you any type of time. Like they're like, oh, well, we'll be there at this time or this time. Yeah. That's definitely a red flag because that was one of the red flags we dealt with Albany is that they claimed that they gave us multiple times. And it's like, you didn't, but whatever. And then the other big red flag is if they don't show up on time, don't be afraid to call somebody else because
cancel.
As long as you don't pay a deposit, which again, legit tip, don't pay them anything before they get there. You can typically get somebody that same day because moving companies have people that won't be moving that day and they'll just be sitting at home and they'll call them and be like, hey, do you want to move today? And then they say either yes or no. And if they say yes, you've got your movers and they'll be there in a few minutes.
Yeah. It's a little stressful in the moment, but it worked out good for us when we left Albany.
So now we move on to the next step. So we got the pod delivered, no problem, the first day. The second day, the movers came. And while the movers were there, we got a text.
Yeah, Gary set up the cleaners about a month, 2 months before our move because we were like, let's just knock it out, get it scheduled, get it on the books. We know how much it's going to cost. We know when they're going to be here. And we can form a plan with the movers and like when we're going to turn in our keys. So we had this all prearranged about 2 months before we moved out. And Gary started getting text messages from the cleaners saying that they were not going to be able to accommodate us on the date that we prearranged 2 months prior for a clean out, for a apartment move out clean out.
Yeah. So we've never used cleaners before. So this will be our first time. And we were like, well, let's try it. We wanted to try it on the last move. But because of the COVID stuff that was sort of surrounding that, there was no one we could find because they still weren't even going into apartments in New York City. So when we were in Las Vegas, we were like, well, let's try it for the first time. So I called them, like she said, about 2 months out. I got the prices. It was between like $200 and $500, which is a huge spectrum.
That's a huge gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were like, okay, worst case scenario, we pay $500. We didn't have to do anything. They're supposed to bring their own equipment. They're supposed to bring their own cleaning supplies. We just merely open the door for them to come in. They clean however long it takes them to clean, and we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, 2 legit tips here. One is I did get it in writing that they would bring all their own stuff. I literally asked them directly, do I need to give you a vacuum or cleaning tools? And they said no, unless I specifically wanted them to use some product of ours, which again, I didn't care about. So I was like, well, okay, that's cool. And then another legit tip is to get everything in writing. See, they wanted to call, in which they did during the appointment setup. Like we had everything in writing. Then all of a sudden they sent me an email. Hey, can we call and finish this up? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I called them, finished it up. But then I sent them an email directly afterwards with this is what we talked about, specifically 1, 2, 3, 4. And I put them all in bullet points. This is the time you're supposed to show up. This is the time they're supposed to be here. This is the cost it's going to be. You don't need any of our stuff. Put all of that in an email and sent that back to them. And they were cool with that. So we thought everything was good. And then as the movers are moving, they're like, hey, no one's going to be there tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Last second. Not even like 24, 48 hour notice.
And I was like,
so frustrating.
And I was like, I'm sorry, no one's going to be here on the day we scheduled months ago? Yeah, we can be there next week sometime, looking at like a Thursday or Friday. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but there's a woodpecker on the birdhouse out there. I'm sorry. And there's a woodpecker. We can't turn the camera on.
Yeah.
You'll just have to take our word for it.
We're stationary, unfortunately, guys.
But I'm like, so you schedule this months out and then all of a sudden you just abandon and you think you can move it. It's a move out. I'm not going to be here next week.
Exactly.
Doesn't help
What do you
me.
think is going to happen next week? Like we turn in our keys in like 3 days.
And then it goes ghost. Nothing. And I'm like, hey, if you can't do this, please let me know immediately because we are going to either have to take our stuff out of the storage container, like our vacuum and stuff, or we're going to have to find somebody else. And either way, we need to get to it because movers are pretty easy to find. Cleaning people seem to be a little more difficult
Yeah,
in
they're
our
definitely a
experience.
little. Oh, at least in Las Vegas, it was a little bit more difficult to find.
Well, and in Albany when we tried this. I mean, both
Oh
times we've
yeah.
tried this, we've had a really difficult time trying to find anybody to come and clean.
So yeah, and our house was empty. Our there was nothing. Honestly, the house was not dirty. Probably the dirtiest thing would have been the oven, but even that was pre-cleaned.
Yeah, I pre-did the oven, so there was just a little bit of cleaning that had to be done on the inside. The biggest thing is that the floors need to be mopped, the vacuum, the
Needed to be
carpets
ran.
on the upstairs, and that's kind of it. And then just cleaning, a little things here and there, like cleaning off countertops and stuff, just from the dust and stuff from people moving. That was kind of all we had to do. So I'm like, hey, can you respond? And it went like an hour. So I'm searching online, looking for new
We're getting
cleaners,
prepared, yeah,
and
prepared.
deciding if we're gonna take like the vacuum and stuff out of the thing and how that's gonna work, because it's packed so poorly that at that point, if we take it out, we should just repack the whole
Yep.
thing. Maybe that's what the universe was telling us. Maybe that's what the universe was telling us.
We're gonna learn a hard lesson in a couple weeks.
Yeah. But we didn't. They ended up texting back and they're like, hey, we can come. I've moved some things around. She'll be able to make it this, but it's gonna have to be earlier. They're gonna have to come at like 8 o'clock.
And we're like, yeah, sure, that
I was
works for us.
Yeah, I'm like, that's actually better for us because they were supposed to come at 9:30. So you come in at 8. All right, that's cool, no problem. They took $15 off, and if you think of a $500 bill, because they're always gonna do the high end,
I don't even think that's 5%.
it's not. Yeah,
It's
it's
not.
not.
If it was
It's,
$150,
It's about 3% is what it is.
yeah, they took off like what their
3%?
credit card fee was,
Yeah.
maybe.
So they gave us $15, and like the only reason why I said yes, and just so you know, when you're out there, is because we were on a time crunch.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have said no and went with somebody else, because at this point, that's extremely unprofessional to try to like change all of this stuff. They're like literally a day before they're supposed to be there.
And so we were out of the apartment because we took the mattress, everything. So we were officially out of the apartment.
Yeah, there's nothing in the apartment at this point.
And we were down by the strip because that's pretty much where all the hotels are.
So anyways, we said yes, that's fine. You'll be here at 8. Oh yeah, we'll be there at 8. No problems. Okay. Sent them an email, again, a legit tip. I sent them another email saying, hey, you guys changed the date. You guys contacted me at this time. We said X, Y, and Z. We said this. Now, I know it's in text, so technically it was in writing. But, just to be sure, everything seemed to go smoothly, except for they responded with, I have to make sure that we're going to give you that $15 off, is what they said in the email. That was the
Which
response.
was ridiculous.
And
But
I was just
okay.
like, whatever. It's just...
And it was a bit of, like I said, we were staying down on the strip, which our former apartment is like northwest Las Vegas. So
Yeah.
it's about a 30-minute drive from the strip, give or take some traffic. And so we got up early the day that they were supposed to be there. We drove to our house, opened everything back up. We had I think we had a load of laundry that we wanted to do while we were there. So we did that. And we had like a few other things to give away for free. So we kind of set that up. We're waiting for the lady to show up.
All of this is in the garage, in case you're wondering. So
Yeah.
she wasn't actually going to clean the garage. Now, this is interesting, too, just something that I know. After we had finished, you sent her like your address, so she looks up your address on Zillow to see it. Nothing about not cleaning the garage. It was actually supposed to be clean, too. But then on the last little thing, she had included that, garage would be extra. So they took that out. And I was like, I kind of let it go because I wasn't planning on them cleaning the garage to begin with, so it wasn't a big deal to me. But again, another red flag that we sort of ignored and moved past, just thinking like, let's give them a try. They have great reviews, etc.
Yeah. Don't believe all the reviews you read out there about stuff.
Especially if you're looking at Yelp. What we have found as travelers with restaurants and hotels and everything is just like,
We don't do Yelp no more.
yeah, I don't believe a thing that's on Yelp because it could be the 20 years old and they're saying
Yeah.
it's 4 stars. A little off topic, sorry about that. So we have all this stuff in the garage ready to go. We're actually on Facebook giving stuff away, and
Yeah.
we're just doing that.
Yeah.
We're doing our laundry, which was going along smoothly. It's
Still no
8:30.
person.
It's 8:30. She hasn't showed up yet.
No text. No
nothing.
call.
So I sent a text because that was my main form of communication. Hey, it's 8:30. She's not here. Nothing. I waited till 8:45. Sent another text. Hey, she's not here. It's she was supposed to be here at 8. What's going on? I get a text at 8:55. They finally got back to me. Hey, I'm sorry. She had some car trouble, but she's on her way. She'll be there at 9. They said 9. And I was like, okay. So basically the time that you originally said that she was going to be there for the first clean. All right. Okay. So we wait. Gets 9 o'clock. She's still not there.
Yeah.
She didn't show till 9:30, 9:45.
Yep. She was very late.
Very, very late. And they tried to claim that she was there. And I'm like, she's
We're
not here. Yeah, we're not
Nobody's
here.
here.
She's not here. Oh, she's there. They sent me a text at 9. Oh, she's here. And I'm like, no, she's not. We are here right now. There is no one there. That was their scam text to try to, like, later on, had I not responded to that, they'd have been like, oh, she showed up at 9, like we said
You
she
weren't
would.
there, and so
Yeah.
she left.
Yeah. Or you didn't answer the door quick enough, so she waited for you is what they would have said, or something like that, when we tried to fight the charge later. And anyways, so she gets there. So she parks. She didn't carry that much stuff.
She really didn't. She didn't have that much stuff at all.
I was fascinated. I was thinking, you're cleaning a whole apartment and you have this little cleaning stuff? She came in with a vacuum, a big like Swiffer mop kind of thing. It wasn't really a Swiffer mop, but if you think about what a Swiffer mop, just think about it. It was like bigger.
Long. Yeah, it was like a long, flat surface mop.
And they had something that they put on the bottom of it and like mopped. Then she had this bag, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's all she brought into the house. I was like, wow, that's all
And the
they need?
vacuum was not like a good looking vacuum. It was like a generic.
Yeah, I want to be like Bissell, but
Yeah.
not Bissell. It was like a knockoff
It
of a
wasn't
Bissell.
even like a good
Right.
vacuum. But I was like, whatever. I mean, I'm no hate. As long as it sucks, that's all we care about.
Well, and sometimes the junk ones are better. They just
Sometimes,
are.
yeah.
So, and she's a professional, so I just assumed that that's kind of what that was going on. So she goes in the house, and we're like, okay. She starts cleaning. Now, I don't know what to do in these situations. It's like, do you just sit outside? Do you like go into the house and watch them? What do you do?
Do you tell them like, hey, can you focus here? Can you focus there? Like, we just figured like, hey, like, you've got eyes. You see what's dirty? Clean what's dirty.
Yeah, because when I used to work as an electrician, people would come and like watch you. And that was the most frustrating thing and annoying, because you're like, why are you bothering me? I know what I'm doing. Let me do what I'm going to do. So I feel like I'm in the same way.
Yeah, you don't want to micromanage.
So I don't want to micromanage them. So I was like, we'll just let her go. So we went into the garage. We were still giving stuff away. So we were doing stuff on Facebook, getting yelled at on Facebook. We can tell you that story at the end too. Well, a couple of them. But we're like just giving stuff away, hanging out in the garage. And she comes out probably, I would say maybe 30 minutes into the clean. Hey, I'm having problems with my vacuum. I'm sorry, what? Do you have a vacuum? I'm like, no, everything's in our storage thing. It's all locked up. We would have to dig through that to get it. Oh, that's no problem. Do you have something to unclog my vacuum? And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Like, really,
What?
what?
I was like, we have this Swiffer thing because we were giving away one of our Swiffer. I'm like, I can kind of extend that and shove it down there. Maybe that'll. So she tries. She takes it inside. She tries. She comes back out. Oh, that didn't work. But I think I can get it. I think it will be okay. And they're like,
Cool.
all right.
We're both a little apprehensive, but we're like, all right, we'll see what happens in the end.
And if you think about a move out clean, like the carpet is basically the biggest thing that you have left to clean.
And that's like all the upstairs surfaces are carpet. The stairs, both the bedrooms and the loft, and then you have hard surface in the 2 bathrooms upstairs. All of downstairs is all hard surfaces.
Yep. So like the whole upstairs is basically carpet except for bathroom, and that's
and
it.
you should be vacuuming before you mop a hard surface. If you don't have a broom, which she did not.
Well, she did not have a broom. Oh, that's true. So she would have had to vacuum the hard surface as well. That's a good point. See, I didn't even think about that before. Yeah, she did not have a broom. So anyways, so she goes inside and we just assume, well, maybe she fixed it.
Yeah, we just continue. She doesn't update us or anything.
Yeah, like she's the professional. She should be able to do
We
this.
didn't hear from her. We're just like, okay, she's just doing her thing in there. An hour goes by, 2 hours goes by.
This is taking a lot longer than we thought it was going to take too.
3 hours. We're now at like the 3 hour mark, and we're like, I know this wouldn't take us this long.
And let me explain to you. There's nothing in the apartment. Literally nothing in the apartment at all.
Yeah, she
It
doesn't
was
have to
empty.
move anything.
Yeah.
It's
No
bare
boxes,
bones.
no nothing. We're like, what is taking her this long?
Yeah. And finally, I think right around the 3.5 hour mark,
She comes out.
she comes outside and she's like, hey, I'm about to mop the downstairs, but before I do, I just want to do like a walkthrough, and you guys can just kind of take a look at what I've done, so that way we don't track back and forth, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, yeah, sure. And so we go upstairs, and the downfall to this apartment is that there's not good lighting. Unless it's between 7 and 9 a.m. in the morning, you don't get any good lighting in that apartment naturally.
At all. And there's no overhead lighting
Yeah.
in many of the areas at all, especially now that all of our lights were taken down. Like in the bedroom, it had a mushroom cap, which is just this mushroom looking light.
It's one light bulb.
With one light bulb that's 40 amps.
So, yeah.
40 watts.
So you don't really get good lighting. So we go up there, we kind of look. She cleaned out the shower, she wiped down the surfaces.
She did grab off a piece of plastic on the floor, and I just
a couple of times she bent down and picked up stuff as she was going up the stairs, and we were kind of like,
that's interesting, but
okay, well, attention to detail. I'm glad you're picking up stuff that you see.
I just assumed that she had dropped it, like bringing down the stuff, and it had like fallen out of her trash bag, which she didn't have either, by the way.
Nah,
thinking back at it now.
Bag.
Yeah.
Where did the remnants of the vacuuming go?
Yeah, we thought about this.
It went nowhere. You know where it went? In the carpet.
Yeah, it was still on the carpet. But like thinking back, again, legit tip, make sure they bring a trash bag out with them when they leave, because that was one thing we didn't pay attention to.
Oh, she did have a bag of Cheetos. We did see that.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw that when we were helping her fix the vacuum. I was going to talk about this at the end, but you brought it up now. She had a bag of Cheetos, and she was eating Cheetos in her house while she was cleaning. Cheetos, of all things, you're like, what's the most dirty thing that I can eat in the house? Let's get cheese dust everywhere.
Cheese dust. So we followed her around the house. Again, we couldn't see a whole lot.
And not all the way around the house.
Yeah, we just kind of like walked into each of the rooms, and she was like, oh, I cleaned this, I cleaned that. She opened up the refrigerator, and she was like, I wiped, which the refrigerator looked fine. The stove looked fine. I mean,
microwave was good.
On first glance, majority of the surfaces looked fine. And we went upstairs, and like I said, she was picking stuff up as she went up the stairs. And
red flag.
There's poor lighting in any of the rooms up there. So unless you've got some good lighting, you're not really going to see like into the fibers of the carpet. And maybe we're just a little too obsessed. I don't know. When we got the apartment, it was filthy. So, we're just like, we're going to kick it to the man. We're going to give it back to them way cleaner than what they gave it to us, to be like, this is a clean apartment, no bugs, no nothing. Yeah. So we didn't really see anything off of first glance.
No, not at all.
And so we're like, all right, cool. And she's like, all right, well, I'm going to mop the downstairs, and then we'll be good. And we're like, okay, great. Sounds good. And so she finishes up her mopping, and she comes out, and we say our goodbyes. And then I was like, well, shit, there's a couple of things that we had on the counter that was for move out day, and I was like, we need to just go grab that.
Well, it was in a box, so it was like a box of like the keys and stuff like that. Yeah,
I was like, we just need to go grab that. I was like, I'll take my shoes off and I'm gonna pop in. And so I go and I pop in, and the lights are on.
Yeah, she left all the lights on.
The lights are on upstairs, the lights are on downstairs.
She turned the air down to like 50 degrees.
The air conditioning was cranked all the way down. And so I go upstairs, and I'm turning off the lights, and I'm kind of like, the more, like, it's weird. Like, I feel like if I have somebody following me around, and I feel like I do this a lot with contractors, I don't really know how to be objective enough to be like, no,
right,
you need to do this again. So there's a little bit of like issue there with me and voicing how I feel. Maybe it's because I'm a millennial. Maybe it's because I was traumatized as a child and I'm not good with confrontation. I don't know. You can let me know in the comments what you think that is. So we're going through, and I'm like, everything is on. I don't really know, but you know what? We'll deal with it when we come back and the floors are dry, because it was just me. I didn't want Gary coming in too, because the floors were absolutely sopping wet.
Which is why she did that, so that we couldn't go in and look at stuff.
Like, so wet that it was almost puddle-like.
Yeah, because as soon as she leaves, you get the text, hey, she said she's done. This is going to be your amount.
Yeah, it's going to be this much money.
And it was, of course, the max amount of the estimate, minus the $15. So generous of them. And then they're like, this is what it's going to cost. Is that okay to charge on this card?
You were like, yeah, sure.
And I was like, this is the card you should use. Yes. That's how I answered it. And I answered it that way. Legit tip. Because they ask, is everything good? I didn't know if everything was good. All I knew is that that's the card they should charge it on. So
Yep.
you specifically state, yeah, that's the card you should charge it to that card. Yes.
So,
And that'll help us in the end too.
yeah, so
It's a secret
we
we're going to get to.
we left.
We left because
We finished out the garage. We got rid of the rest of the stuff we needed to get rid of, and we're like, okay, we're gonna go back to the hotel, and we're just gonna go have a chill night, enjoy ourselves, and we'll be back on such and such date for our final move out.
Well, we had a day break, so we had one more day in between the dropping off keys and that date. So we were like, well, we're just going to go have fun on the strip because that day was supposed to be taken up with them cleaning the house.
And the pod would have gotten picked
And the
up
pod
that
would
day.
have picked up that day too.
Which, legit tip, you don't have to be there for pickup or drop off. You really don't. I mean, I suggest being there for drop off so you can be like, hey, can you put it here? But in terms of pickup, no, you don't have to be there.
And when they drop it off to unload it, a legit tip here, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but the legit tip here is make sure you can open the door.
Yeah,
so
before they leave.
When they drop it, before they even take the machine off, be like, hey, I just want to try to open the door first, because sometimes they're going to have to jiggle it, like she said, to get it to open. Anyways, so yeah, we had the free day. It was sitting. It dried. Everything seemed okay. So we come back the next morning. Now, we came back super early just because we wanted to make sure everything was good before the guy showed up.
Yep.
Which was smart.
We just did some final walkthroughs, and it was early because, again, the only time you get good lighting in that apartment complex is between 7 and 9 a.m., at least in our particular unit.
Yeah.
So we got there, and we're looking around, and we're like, dirt. And this is just downstairs.
And the countertops, they weren't swept off.
No.
I mean,
There was still
cheese
food.
dust.
There was still Cheetos.
Yeah, there's still cheese dust on it. And I was like, we haven't ate Cheetos in a long time.
We were like, where's this Cheeto dust coming from?
Not that we don't like Cheetos. It's just we don't ever buy Cheetos.
Yeah.
So we were like, where does this cheese dust?
And there's like food crumbs. It's just like random little things that we're now seeing. And then we go upstairs, and sure enough, we're looking at the floors, and the floors are filthy.
The floors were not vacuumed.
You couldn't even see vacuum lines.
Yeah, I'm like I'm just picking up junk and picking up junk and picking up junk off the floors. And my dad's neighbor is now here picking up junk. And
You guys may hear the serenade of Coda shortly. You may not.
I don't think he's here. I think he went out.
Oh.
So, yeah, what were we talking about? We're talking about movers.
Yeah, we were talking about the
cleaning.
cleaning. Yeah, so there were
we
no vacuum lines in the carpet.
And we just started picking stuff up off the carpet.
Yeah, handfuls of stuff out of the carpet.
And then we're like, okay, our vacuum's gone. Do we? Because Nacy has a friend, Tia, that she lives by. I'm like, do we call Tia and be like, hey, can we borrow your vacuum? And then I was just like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I don't care. We got this place and it was so badly maintained.
So disgusting.
That it was just like, nah, I'm not really interested.
We're like, we're going to pick up what we can visually see.
Yep.
And cross our fingers that they don't give a shit, because we really didn't know what we were walking into with this. We rented from this company for 3 years. So I think anything would be like normal wear and tear at this point, because.
Well, and we inherited the house and it was infested with cockroaches.
Infested.
And there was cockroach droppings in the cabinets and stuff that we had to clean and do all this stuff.
It literally took us 3 weeks to get into this place because we had to clean it so deeply.
Yeah, we left all of our stuff in the garage when we finally had it dropped off, and then we cleaned the house for 3 weeks, y'all.
Yep.
It was a nightmare. So we were like, I don't care anymore. This is the quality we got it in. This is significantly cleaner. But then we're like looking at ourselves. It would have took us 2 hours to do the cleaning, max.
Really, we
and
could
it
have
took her
saved
3.5 hours. Plus, we paid $500.
Yeah.
And it's not even clean.
Or like, in our mind, looking back on it, was it worth it? No. Only because I feel like when we're committed and we're doing it ourselves, we feel like we're like, no, like our level is up here. Like, maybe your level's here, but like, we're like, no, we're going to make sure it's clean and it's done right and it's done to our standards.
But it's not only that too. It's like, so we had to wait there while she cleaned. So we were there doing nothing.
Yeah.
We could have just been cleaning then. And now had it been the day that the pod was supposed to be picked up, then we'd be dealing with the pod stuff.
Yeah.
And we would be giving all of our stuff away that day. So we would have done everything on the same day, which then makes it, okay, at least we're not just sitting there.
Yeah,
but
we're
if
not just sitting for 3.5 hours.
But if all you have to do is sit there and wait for them, why are you not cleaning at that point? Unless you physically can. No judgment. But like if you can clean, why wouldn't you just clean?
It was weird. It's a weird situation. So, we're curious, like, out of you guys who have done this in the past, let us know what your tips, hints, tricks are.
That's Coda, in case you can hear the barking.
Yeah.
And it's just weird because like it just didn't work out. And then I'm like, hey, so it took me a day or two to get to them because we went finish the move up because that was priority number one. And then when we finally got back to them, I'm like, hey, this is what happened. This is what the carpet looked like. This is unacceptable. I want at least a partial refund. Ghosted.
Yeah.
Never heard from them again. So I was like, well, we just did a charge back through the Amex. And so far, so well. But, it's like, I'm not going to keep following up with you. Yeah.
It was very disappointing experience.
Posted my stuff on Yelp with the pictures in case you want to see them. But it was just like, nope, not going to do this again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was the big move out. And then the apartment complex came.
They looked at it.
They looked at it. They were fine with everything.
Yeah, they snuck some fees out. They've snuck like a moving fee out. I'm sorry, I don't have to pay to leave. Like I'm
$18.
Yeah, $18 move out fee. I'm sorry, what?
$18 to move out. I'm sorry.
I'm so tired of rentals.
What does that do? Is that keys? Because here's the keys. I gave you back everything you gave us.
Yeah, including everything from cards to visitor pass to everything.
Yeah, we kept the envelope that they gave us 3 years prior.
Yep. Everything was in it.
Everything was photocopied too when they gave us everything. We kept that photocopy.
Yeah.
Like, we were meticulous, like, to the T. And he still was like, yeah, there's this fee and there's this fee. And it's like, what? And then the kicker, which I did go back and I looked at it and he was right.
I don't think he was. I disagree.
I looked back. Everything was dated 2 months prior.
That doesn't matter. That's just their accounting. He counts incorrectly all the time. On the second month we lived there, we got double charged that fee because we had the conversation. Why are you double charging the fee to the apartment complex? And they said, oh, we forgot to charge you the first month. So we were charged.
I just couldn't find that email.
Right. We were charged every month. So his accounting was incorrect, but we didn't save the email apparently where it said. Now we could have went back to our bank statements and did all that, but that's
a lot of work.
It was not worth $40 to do all that work.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, our $500 deposit was $380, I think was what we got back. Not that we always go into every rental with the idea that we're probably not going to get back what we put in. You just save yourself the trouble on that regard and just accept that fact. You'll save yourself a lot of anguish in the end. And then it's like, oh, cool, I got something back.
Yeah, because we've given perfect houses back to people and they've kept our entire deposit. And it's just like, it's not worth our time.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get an attorney, you're going to have to pay at least $5,000 to the attorney for like a retainer fee. And at that point, if it's not even worth that, then what? So just sunk cost.
So yeah, turned the keys back in. All of that was great. Went back to the strip hotel, which honestly, that strip hotel was nasty.
Nasty, not like Vegas nasty. It was nasty, like disgusting.
It was gross.
Yeah.
It was. I don't recommend that hotel. And you guys, we'll put the link for that video for that hotel in the show link below if you're interested into what hotel that was.
Well, it's the Embassy Suites. We're not gonna hide that from you. It was the Embassy Suites in Las Vegas.
We're not gonna gatekeep.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we hung out on the strip for like another day.
We had the best pizza we had in Vegas that night, though. So
yeah, we did.
The day did end well. It was like Twisted Pizza.
Yep.
They do like these weird like cone things, and they can do it with like pasta and stuff.
They had like a foot-long mozzarella stick.
They had sourdough bread, which was our initiation to the sourdough because we did go to San Francisco about a week later, which was amazing too, which we'll talk about on our next podcast. So make sure you subscribe to Awkward Chats if you want to hear our next podcast about San Francisco and stuff.
Yeah, and then we dropped some stuff off at my friend's house before we left, because she graciously let us use her house as storage.
Thank you, Ronald Weasley.
While we were trying to figure out we weren't figuring out anything. We just needed a place for 6 weeks while we were gone,
For our
And
podcast stuff, which is how we're doing this.
yeah, she kept it nice and safe because we didn't want to travel with it all the way to San Fran.
Yeah.
But we also didn't want to leave it in our car.
Yeah, exactly, at the airport. So.
Yeah. So then we caught a flight and we went to California for 6 weeks. And 6 weeks? 3 weeks. I think it was 3 weeks, actually. I don't think it was 6 weeks because we only paid for 3 weeks of parking. So yeah, it felt like 6 weeks though. It was a long trip.
A long trip, yeah. Yeah, and then we headed out on Route 66 after that. And there's a ton of stuff that we're going to be talking about in our next podcast. So definitely, again, subscribe to Awkward Chats.
That road trip was definitely a road trip that will last a lifetime of memories. It was a great road trip, honestly. It really wasn't bad.
It was. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back, and we're going to talk about the new DAS system, which is the Disability Access System at Disney. That's Macy's thoughts on it. See you in a second.
There have been a lot of changes. And if you are on social media, anywhere where Disney content is shared, this may not be new to you. Now, what may be new to you is if you're not somebody that this affects, maybe you don't know all the details, maybe you've just kind of heard like what other people are saying. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the changes that Disney has made to Disability Access Service, or known as the DAS, and let you guys know our thoughts and opinions on it. Also, some news about like the channel and where that's going and why we're taking it in the direction that we're taking it. So,
yeah. So, well, the Disability Access System is basically a system that's supposed to give people with disabilities the same park experience as someone who doesn't have a disability. I mean, simply put, that's what it is. And it's required by law. It's required by the ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act. And if you don't know about the American Disabilities Act, you should look it up because it's a fascinating story. But how it was passed was basically a ton of people with disabilities basically strewed themselves across the actual steps that our legislators have to walk past to get to their jobs, so that they would know how difficult their life is without ADA access. And those senators were then basically forced to vote on a bill to help those people because they were being ignored. And that's how it all came to pass. So when you think about maybe we should move the goalpost a little bit or give them a little bit of more access, you have to think about what people gave up to get where we are.
yes.
Before starting with the whole like, well, maybe it doesn't matter. It's just a little thing. Because moving the goalpost is how the system gets worse.
Disabilities come in all shapes and forms. You can have a physical disability, you can have a mental disability, you can have a invisible disability that might be something like internally within your body that's happening, that maybe to somebody off the street you look normal, but that's just because you're really good at managing your disability, which takes a lot of work. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people don't realize, whether you have like a visual, like, hey, I see you're in a wheelchair, or you're somebody up walking, talking. People don't realize the amount of work that it goes into to deal with an illness, a sickness, a physical limitation, to try to make your life as normal as possible.
Yeah, a little bit about the old system before we kick in the new system. Basically, the old system was you could either do the interview in the parks or you could do it ahead of time. If you did it ahead of time, you basically phoned into the system, but it was all digital. So it was on a laptop or your phone. You'd video in. They'd ask you a couple questions about why you need the disability access system. They'd ask you,
why can't you stand in a line?
Why can't you stand in line? And that would be basically it. You explain that, and then they'd be like, okay. And they would approve you or disapprove you. And most of the time you get approved because, again, disabilities, it's more like it would flow towards inclusivity than exclusivity. That's how the ADA is written. It's more about inclusivity.
It's about leveling the playing field. Everybody has a certain limit that they can hit. Well, you're trying to level that so that everybody has the same opportunity and the same experience. And Disney did a great job of doing that in the past. It was definitely the mecca of people who had disabilities, where they would choose to vacation over other experiences because they knew they could go there. They knew that they weren't going to have to fight. And they knew that they were going to have a good experience because Disney cared. Now, their new system, completely different. And they announced these changes, I believe it was end of March was when they first announced that these changes were coming. And what they did initially is they changed the verbiage on the DAS. And it used to be that the verbiage stated anyone who had, like a mental issue or capacity that they couldn't wait in lines, anybody who couldn't wait in a line due to heat. And I believe there was one other line that was in there as well. So it was very all-encompassing. Well, they took everything out except for people who have a mental disability, including autism. And don't get me wrong, I 100% believe that people who have autism, people who have any type of mental issue should be included in this. There's nothing against them. However, there's more to that than just those. So,
well, before we go any further, we're not punching down.
Yeah.
We're not going to punch down in this podcast. We don't think you should punch down. The problem is greed, and it's the Disney executives. Those are who you should be punching at. If you're frustrated with your Disney Lightning experience, your Disney Genie Plus experience, it's not people with disabilities that are causing these problems. It is the CEOs. It is the executives that are making the decisions. It is those people who are making your experience bad at Disney.
Yep.
Stop taking your frustrations out on people who are below you and punching down. Punch up. No reason to punch down. And that's not what we're doing in this podcast. So whether you have autism or you need the line, that's not for us to judge, and we think you should use it.
Yep.
But we don't think that they should just
exclude everybody.
Pick a certain disabled population, and then the rest of them, we'll get into what they told them and what we say.
So Disney, if you guys know anything about the disability services at theme parks, the most popular one recently has been the IBECCES, which is an international. It's long. It's an international system, and it's used overseas in theme parks overseas because they're not the United States of America, and they have different laws surrounding disabilities. Now, Universal, Six Flags, and I want to say another theme park within the United States have migrated to using that system. Some people love it. Some people hate it. You have to submit a doctor's letter. You have to go through a interview process with the IBCEES. And then if they say, yes, you have a disability, then you have to go to said theme park and have a second interview with the theme park. So it is a 2-part process. And even then, even if the IBCEES says you have a disability, that theme park could still say no. So it's not a win-all system. And there have definitely been mixed reviews from people who have used that. So I'm just going to throw that out there. Now,
and
Disney
you also shouldn't have to have a doctor's note according to the ADA too. Just
correct.
Maybe you want to contact a lawyer about that.
Which is definitely something we talked about a lot in the last 2 years since Universal started utilizing that system. I have not gone through that process personally. It is on our list of things to eventually do, but we have not gone back to Universal in several years. And it may be something that you guys may see on the channel in the future. Because I'm not completely against it. There are things that do bother me about the system. I think in order for me to talk about it, I need to go through it. And so that may be in the future. Now, Disney has decided not to partner with IBCEES, which I'm glad. Kudos to them for that decision. But they did decide to partner with a different group, and I don't remember what the name of the group is, but they specialize in children with autism. That is their specialty. And that is what this other group is that you're going to be having an interview with. And supposedly it is supposed to be medical staff. Supposedly. But as a nurse, I know that not all nurses are specialized in all areas of medicine. I know everybody likes to think like we know everything, but we don't. We know our specialized field, and that's what we know. Now, we can understand medical information, and we can Google things, and we can learn, but it doesn't make us a specialist in everything medical. So take that with a grain of salt. So the new process, you can no longer do an in-park interview for a DAS. If you do,
If you do go to the park and you haven't done the interview process, they will set you up with a tablet, I believe, and a way to do the interview process virtually from wherever it is that you are. So that capability is there, but it's not the same in-person interview that you were allowed previously.
And according to the writing, you're only allowed to do that once. So if you do it once and then you come back and try to do it again, they're supposedly saying that they won't allow you to do it, but that's not what ADA law says either.
Agreed. So you have to do the pre-DAS interview online. Now, one thing I would like to note that I don't think a lot of people realized before they signed up to do the initial interview is that they have put in the fine print that if you agree to do the DAS interview, that you agree not to sue collectively in a, what is that called?
Class action lawsuit.
Class action lawsuit.
Which we're not attorneys, but I don't think that's legal either.
Yeah, so
You might want to
definitely
seek legal advice there too.
that to me was, because I was talking about, well, maybe I'll just do it. But once I found out that that was in the agreement of going, this is before you even find out if you get accommodations.
Well, and she missed the part too. You have to buy a ticket too before you can find any of this out. So you need to buy a ticket for the park, have
That's
a date.
step one, actually, is buy a ticket.
And get a reservation to go into the parks too before you can even have this interview.
Which I don't believe is ADA either, because now again, we're not attorneys, but I do believe that I should be able to find out if I am going to be accommodated before I purchase a ticket to a place, especially with as many issues as they're having and the likelihood that I will not be accommodated in a way that is useful, which I'll get to in a second. So you buy the ticket, you sign up for your advance interview, you do your advance interview, and you agree to the terms and conditions before you even talk to someone, which is that you won't collectively sue them, which if you know anything about litigation and suing major corporations, that definitely takes a lot of wind out of your sail if that actually is upholdable in court. Again, not attorneys, I don't know, but that definitely would strongly weaken your fighting ability.
Well, no, it'll weaken the ability to find an attorney. See, an attorney makes more money if multiple people get involved, then millions of dollars of settlement, he gets like 20% of that. Whereas if it's just an individual person, it's only going to be a few $1,000s he's going to be able to get. So you want to be able to sue with multiple people so that the attorney can make more money, making it more possible for you to find an attorney to sue.
So as of May 20th, the changes went into effect, and it was not good. If you were anywhere on the internet, you may have heard from somebody, you may have seen it yourself. All of the people, which is a large population of people who go to Disney, have disabilities. And you may not realize it because a lot of us are really good at masking, and a lot of us are really good at hiding what really bothers us, you know? And they were met with a lot of difficulty. So one of the issues that I'm seeing over and over again is the people who previously qualified for DAS. So I've used DAS for the last 10 years. I honestly didn't know about it at first for a while, and I did a little bit of research into it. And then I was like, it's worth me asking if I can have an accommodation because of the heat and my diabetes and low blood sugar, high blood sugar, things that happen to me while I'm in the line. And Disney never asked any questions. They were like, yep, you qualify. Here you go. And so I've used DAS for the last 10 years without issue. No issues whatsoever. And it has definitely made my park experience a lot better, because before I knew what the DAS was, there were so many times I had to leave the line because either my blood sugar bottomed out, we've had to leave the park because I got so sick because of the heat. There were just multiple reasons why we couldn't have a good experience, and being able to have the DAS in our park day allowed us to be annual pass holders for a period of time. It allowed us to take spontaneous trips to the park when we no longer lived in Orlando or even California. And it definitely helped us mitigate some health issues that I have. Now, currently, people who have said like, well, I can't stand in the line because of the heat, right? Disney's telling them they can leave the line and they can leave their party in the line, and they can return back to the line when their family members have reached the end. I don't think that's an accommodation at all whatsoever, because that's always existed. That's always been available at Disney, and it was so shitty, nobody used it.
Well, first thing is you're never going to find a cast member in the line. The cast members are only at both ends. So they're at the one end, making sure that you get in the right line. And then they're at the other end, basically securing the seats and pushing all the buttons so the ride starts. That's where they are. So you're not going to find them in the in-between. The other thing is you have to hope that you're with somebody else, because if you're not, then where do you return back to the line? You have no idea. And then on top of that, you're also getting separated from your party, so you're going to spend 90% of the day without the people you came to the park with. What's the point of going to the park at that point? Yeah.
How is that equal?
You're not going to have the same experience. One of the benefits of Disney and one of the fun pieces is, and standing in line stinks, I'm with you on that, but you're with your party. You're spending time with them. You're telling stories, or you're doing funny things while you're standing in line. You're learning more about each other. All of those things are gone from people with disabilities who can't wait in line. And then what if you can't find a cast member? Think you have like irritable bowel syndrome or something and you have to go to the bathroom. You're not going to find a cast member, so you're supposed to poop in line?
Or there's a line of 5 people waiting to talk to that cast member, and now you're stuck waiting.
I mean, it doesn't work. And you're just punch up. All of the CEOs are just putting this on park people. Whatever, cast members, employees, whatever you want to call them.
And I think that's despicable that they're putting it off on the cast members.
Well, remember the other thing they said too, for people who have problems standing in line because people are too close to them, they can have a party surround them and create space.
And practice.
So all of you people who've been to Disney, clap if you can hear me. Okay, now get closer to each other. That's the cast member 101.
All available space.
Yeah, that's cast member 101.
Available space. They will yell at you and tell you, fill in all the available space.
And what are you supposed to turn to them and be like, I was told to create
I'm creating a bubble.
By the executive, the CEO said I should create a bubble to keep myself safe.
And they're just going to be like,
no.
And then they're going to get yelled at by their managers because they didn't fill in all available space, and they can't accurately depict how many people are in that space, because they genuinely know, like, if I fill this space up to here, it's roughly this many people to move into the next room.
So another thing that we heard was that people were getting the accommodation where they had to go to the ride, ask for a return time, and then leave.
And that was if the cast member at the ride felt you deserved it.
Yeah. So now they're putting it again on the cast members or the employees, the decision making. Like it's and then how do you prove?
Like how do you prove you have a disability? I mean, and not only that, my question to that is, how is that any different than a DAS?
Yeah. How is a DAS? That was the DAS. Why
are you taking that away from, like, if you're telling me I have to go to the ride and get the return time, okay, fine.
But that
used
DAS.
To be the old system.
Yeah, that was the disability access system like 4 years ago, which is fine. Like she said, it's fine.
So maybe they make 2 systems. Maybe they make a system for people who have, because they're stupid. But it doesn't make sense. And then, like I said, you're at the mercy of that cast member. And do they feel that you deserve that accommodation? They are not medically trained, nor is anybody at Disney necessarily trained on disabilities and what's a disability and what's not a disability. And you're putting it off on people who are more than likely teenage to mid-20s, because that is the majority of the cast members at Disney, because most of them are CPs, college program people. And you're putting it in their hands to decide whether or not to give somebody an accommodation. That is outrageous to me.
So let's do a couple seconds on the arguments against. So one of the arguments is that it's an abused system. Our argument to that is, show me the evidence.
Right.
No one has any evidence they've released. We've had a vlogger who supposedly kept statistics. You want to release them? I have a doctorate. I'm happy to look at your stats, and we'll see what they really say. But that's BS. The other thing is that they're taking up too much line. So one of the arguments is now that when they went to Genie Plus, a ton of people signed for the DAS. You know why?
Because Disney used to have, well, at least Disney World used to have a free Fast Pass system, Fast Pass Plus. It's existed since I was a kid in different iterations, but there's always been a free Fast Pass system at Disney.
Right. And so those people with invisible disabilities, like Nacy talked about earlier, are good at masking those disabilities and hiding them. They would hide them by just using the free fast pass system.
You can make it work.
But now that you took that away, they're not going to pay extra. People with disabilities are not required to pay more money to have the same experience that someone without a disability doesn't have. That's what the ADA says, folks.
And Genie Plus can vary in price from $15 a day per person up to, I've seen in peak times, $50 a day per person.
And the reason why you're seeing more people in those paid lines is because the CEO wants more money. So, like, especially, I know a lot of people probably complain about like Rise and Ratatouille and all those Lightning Lane Plus ones. Well, they just sold unlimited amounts because they can make $30-$40
Per
off
person.
of each person. So they're greedy. It's a CEO thing. You need to take it out on the CEOs and not people with disabilities. The people with disabilities were not taking up those lines. The greed of the Disney executives were taking up those lines.
Because the way that the Disability Access Service Pass works is it used to be you had to go physically to the ride. Based on whatever the wait time was at the time that you got a return time was the time you came back. And if you think about it, you're actually waiting more. So let's say you want to go ride Slinky Dog. Slinky Dog is 65 minutes. They give you a time, 65 minutes from the time that you signed up.
So if you got it at 1 o'clock, you'd have to come back at 2:05. And then you'd enter the
And then you enter
lane.
in the lightning lane, which is an additional anywhere. I've had it 5 minutes, but I've also had it 45 minutes.
Yeah, we've waited on Rise of the Resistance almost an hour.
So sometimes you're actually waiting longer than the people in the actual queue. So that does not actually affect the people in the lightning lane. It doesn't affect the people in the regular queue because you're waiting in the same spot. I'm just not standing in front of you. I'm
Right.
standing. Usually I'm not standing. I'm usually somewhere in air conditioning, sitting somewhere having a drink because I can't do that. Or we're in a show where you're sitting down in air conditioning because that's pretty much all I can do is sit in air conditioning. And if you know anything about Florida, it's ridiculous.
And so
8 months out
basically
of
the
year.
people are just waiting for their return time.
Yeah. It's not that they're doing a million other things and they're getting free fast passes. That's not the deal. And we talked about this the other night. We were talking about the old Fast Pass Plus system where it was in the phone, it was free before Genie Plus came around. And we would go to the parks even before we were pass holders and we could ride everything. It took a little finagling and yeah, we were on our phones and we were doing this and we were doing that. But we could find a fast pass for almost every single ride at Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, holidays, non-holidays. We could do that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can't do that. And on top of that, they've limited how many you can do because it used to be we could ride if we wanted to ride Haunted Mansion all day, every day, we could just get a fast pass, ride it, get a fast pass, ride it, get a fast pass. You can't do that on the current system, but yet people can't find fast passes. Blows my mind.
Greed.
So clearly the issues that if people would just take a step back and think about the experiences that they had prior to Genie Plus, which I think we can all agree that Genie Plus is a terrible system. It doesn't work. They put it in. It was already junky and glitchy when it started, which I don't understand why they had to change it anyways. They could have just put a Genie overlay over the Fast Pass system and just left it. I don't know why they had to mess with the code to begin with, but we can all agree that Genie Plus was a terrible system from the day that it rolled out, and Disney has done nothing to fix that.
Disney executives, again.
And two, the lightning lanes, like what you touched on, they're just a money grab. They're just an extra money grab on top of it because, yeah, if you want to ride Haunted Mansion for the second time, you can pay for it.
No, it doesn't work like that. The extras are only for certain rides. So if you get the Genie Plus, you can only use it to ride Haunted Mansion one time. There's no way around it.
So then why can nobody find a Genie? Why can nobody find
I'm with you. I don't know. This is a conversation that we've had. It doesn't make sense.
Now, we have gone to the parks since Genie Plus and Lightning Lane has come out. We've never bought Genie Plus. I'm just going to tell you, we've never bought it.
Because we don't believe in it. And if you stop buying this stuff, it will go away, people.
Yeah, it's us too. Like I said, we used to be pass holders. So for us, if we went to the park and we rode 2 things, it was good enough for us. Like, you know, we've done the like day in, day out, ride everything kind of stuff. So we have our favorites. We hit our favorites up. We eat at our favorite spots. We have our day. We move on. Now, if you're just somebody who's coming in vacationing, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's not a good, enjoyable experience anymore.
I don't know why you guys are coming right now to Disney. It doesn't, like, we went to Disneyland too. It's the same thing. Like, if you want to get on all the rides, you're not going to be able to most of the time.
Yeah.
Then, like, what's the point of paying that
Why are you
inflated
paying
$200 or $300 a day ticket? Like, what are we doing, people?
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
They keep raising the prices of tickets. So all of this being said about the DAS.
Sorry, we got a little off.
Yeah.
Tangent.
We just kind of wanted
we're
to
upset with Disney.
explain that Genie Plus system. And, you know, people want to say that people are abusing it. I honestly, I would rather have 2 people abuse it than have nobody have access to it.
And I've seen no evidence of that. No one has actually put any evidence forth other than Disney saying that it stressed the system. And then some random vlogger who supposedly has data but doesn't share it says that. I don't believe you. Prove it. To me, prove it. You either put the evidence out or you shut up about it.
I think people deserve to pay money and have an enjoyable experience. Will I be going through the DAS interview process? I'm still not 100% sure yet. I think at some point I need to experience it and see what's happening, but I'm going to be completely honest. I want to talk to an attorney first. One, because I think it's important to know what my rights are going into it. My hope would be that if we do go through this process and I do talk to an attorney, is to hopefully maybe have somebody be willing to give us 20 minutes of their time to talk about what to look for when you're doing this, and just in your normal day-to-day life as somebody who has a disability, what your rights are, because I think a lot of people don't understand that either. And currently, until we go through that process, though, I think we're going to be taking a huge step back from Disney content.
And let's pause there for a second. So if you're an attorney watching this that specializes in disability law, we have an email down in those comment sections. Shoot us an email. If you're willing to come on the podcast, we'd love to have you on the podcast and talk about this more in depth, as well as if you're just interested in consulting on like what we should be looking for there so that we can share it with people. We have an email. You've seen on our channel, we've done ADA stuff with Disney. We've done the disability access stuff. That's one of our areas that we've done before and in the past, and we're definitely interested in exploring it, but we just want to make sure that we do it the right way.
Yeah, I've thought about this at length for the last 6 weeks, 2 months, however long it's been. And I truly feel like this is the hill I'm going to die on, if I'm going to die on a hill for Disney. And I think people, collectively, there's more of us than there are of them. And I think, and I tell people this all the time, it hurts. It does not feel good to walk away from Disney. Disney doesn't pay us at all. We've never made money from Disney on this channel. Nope. Just going to preface that. We've never made money from Disney Corporation. We've never been on their PR list. We've never had that type of relationship with Disney, which I think looking back is probably a good thing, because this may be a little bit more of a difficult conversation. But I have my morals and my ethics, and I've always been a stan for Disney, and I love Disney until the day I die. But I think I love old Disney. And I love classic Disney, and I love what Disney used to stand for. And currently what they're standing for and what they're doing to people that have disabilities is just not okay. It doesn't sit well with me. It affects me, but it affects a lot more than just me. And I think moving forward that we are going to be more cautious about how we promote Disney, and we have a platform, and I feel that they just don't deserve positive platform right now.
Yeah, you do good things, you get good press, but you haven't done anything good in a very long time. And you're still living off the remnants of the 90s and before.
So, it was hard. Definitely a hard conversation that we've had several of about, like, do we walk away?
Yeah, I mean, we were actually considering moving back to Orlando at one point. I mean, we were considering...
Yeah, as of a month, 2 months ago, it was very much in our radar. And then this happened, and it really kind of made us take a step back and evaluate, like, where are we going? Is this, why would we go back to Orlando full time?
Disney was the reason for us to go back to Orlando.
One of the reasons, yeah.
And it doesn't look like it's going to be that way. Now, will we still go back to Orlando? Who knows? We'll definitely be going for like longer visits, like 2 or 3 weeks here, stay in an Airbnb and still do stuff in Florida. But I do not see Disney being on our radar for theme park videos, unfortunately.
Yeah, unless you guys really want us to do it, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
And we'll go through the DAS thing again, though. Until we really sort of talk to an attorney and make sure we know what we're getting into, it's probably going to be a pause for at least a little bit. Unless Disney backtracks, which hopefully Disney does the right thing here. They have the opportunity to, and the CEOs know exactly what to do.
I think it's going to take their quarterly numbers hitting once this cycles through, because right now you have people who have already bought tickets, who have gone through the process, who have been denied accommodations, and they have a very difficult decision to make right now because Disney currently is saying no refunds. So they are in a difficult position of, do they push it? Do they go and experience it? Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you are somebody who went through the process, were denied accommodations, or you were given accommodations like return to line or, ask for a return time and they didn't work for you, then you should file a complaint with the ADA, the American Disability Act.
And let us know in the comments too. We'd love to hear from you too. Another dismissive thing too is like, they won't do this because if it was illegal, they wouldn't do it. That's not how corporations work. You can just look through the whole like lawsuit with Chick-fil-A and having underage employees and working their meat processing and stuff. Corporations do it, right? And they do it until they get in trouble, and then they pay whatever fine is associated with it. And if that fine doesn't outweigh the benefits of people that they're forcing into the Genie Plus and the Lightning Lane systems, then they're just going to keep doing it because it doesn't matter to them, because they're going to make more money the other way. So anybody who has the argument, well, if it wasn't legal, they wouldn't do it. That's not how corporations work, folks.
Don't get me wrong. They have attorneys, but their attorneys are like,
this is how much money it's going to cost you. If you can make more than this, why are we accommodating anybody?
Also, make sure you put this, and this into these. And if they're stupid, they may not push it.
Yeah.
And if you don't think those conversations happen,
you haven't been paying attention. You just haven't been paying attention.
I mean, you can look at lawsuits from oil companies and chemical companies who have poisoned people for years. And I'm going a little off tangent here, but there comes a time where enough is enough. And I get it. Disney's not like a requirement in my life. And again, that's why I'm walking away. I don't have to go to Disney. Disney doesn't have to be a part of my channel. But I do know that Disney was a place that we had great memories. We used to have great times, and it sucks to walk away. It really does. It sucks a lot, but
that's what we're going to be doing for a little bit.
We've got a lot more of America to see, maybe some international countries. I don't know. So we're just going to maybe I want to go see the real France and go eat at the real Chef de France. Maybe I want to go find a Remy somewhere, go to Mexico, go eat some real Mexican food and go explore, there's other stuff out there other than Disney. And if we're going to show something on our channel, we want it to be positive, and we want to know that the company we're promoting on our channel isn't hurting other people.
Yeah. So if you're listening to us on our Aqua Chats podcast, you can find that anywhere. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel, which is Lost Girl in Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
And if you're on YouTube, go check us out on our podcast, Aqua Chats.
And, as this develops, if any new developments come out, we'll definitely put out some updates if we hear them. But we just want to thank you guys for
tuning
in, listening to us. And we're going to be on the road. So who knows what the backdrop will change to.
So if you like this video and you're on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up.
Make sure you hit that subscribe too. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
3, 2. So if you like this video, hit that thumbs up.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And ring that notification bell so you get notified when we do at least 3 videos a week.
And we'll come and get you guys for the next one.
Ain't that the truth? Baby Ruth.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. See y'all next week. 3, 2. See you guys all next month on Awkward Chats.